Hi everyone, Morgan here, and I have a list of the cheapest survival foods that you can get right now. Let's take a look. The first one, because I want to put this back in my freezer, is going to be frozen foods. You can get frozen fruits and vegetables way cheaper, even frozen meats, super cheap as opposed to the fresh stuff. Now, it is a type of process, so like I wouldn't be able to eat, these raspberries or strawberries straight from the package because they've been frozen. They get really mushy when they get to room temperature. But what I do is you can dehydrate frozen fruits. You can make them in a fruit leather, dehydrate them straight, whatever. You can also dehydrate frozen vegetables as well, just straight from the freezer into your dehydrator. And that's a great way to preserve them for even longer outside of your freezer. It's very cheap to buy the frozen fruits and vegetables. Plus, having the frozen fruits and vegetables are good for casseroles, not fruits, but vegetables are really good for like casseroles and soups and things like that. Next one's gonna be pasta. Though there has been pasta that's been on and off the shelf lately, pasta is still an affordable food item that you can stockpile, and it's actually pretty neat to figure out how to make pasta, which brings me to my next pretty cheap food item, flour and sugar. Now I keep my flour and sugar in 5-gallon buckets, so I don't have them like here, but imagine, flour and sugar right here. Okay, flour and sugar are cheap, and if you plan to bake or make anything from scratch, you're going to be using lots of flour at least, and probably a little bit of sugar for a lot of stuff. So get the flour and sugar. It's still fairly cheap right now. And sugar lasts indefinitely, and ground flour can last around 5 years in a Mylar bag. Oats. Now, while there may be some oat shortages, and in some places oats have definitely increased in price at the time of making this video, but I went on to Amazon the other day and I was able to find the same carton, the 42 ounce, for about $1.28. So it's a pretty good deal. I would definitely look around, like with the Amazon Fresh. Look around from your local grocery stores, bulk shopping, Walmart. Look around for the best prices of oats. You can still find oats cheap, just depending on where you are and where you shop. But oats are a great addition to your preps. Oats can actually last a really long time too. Rice. Now, my rice is just about empty, but imagine that I'm talking about a full rice. I have to replenish that. I have lots of rice, okay? Relax. But rice, of course, a staple in like almost every household. Rice is great and it goes with pretty much everything. It's one of the cheapest and best things that you can stock up on if you eat rice, that is. Spices, any type of spices. You gotta spice up all this food that you got, right? Savory and sweet spices. Get all these types of spices to go with your food. Canned foods, any type of canned foods, fairly inexpensive. The off-brand is gonna be where it's at. I actually like the Great Value. I like the off-brand at my local H-E-B. I like the off-brand cans. Now, of course, they're not all created equal, so if you find that there's like, like this one tastes really gross, I don't like this one, then go ahead and get the name brand or a different brand or whatever. Make sure that you're trying out the canned foods first before putting them on your shelf. Next one's gonna be breadcrumbs. I use this for so many things. If you ever wanna make like any type of patties with like your canned chickens or anything like that, breadcrumbs are going to help with taste and a combining agent. So breadcrumbs, super cheap, and you can just put them in a Mylar bag for long-term use, but we use breadcrumbs a lot. I guess I should have mentioned salt along with either the spices or the flour and sugar, but salt lasts forever, super cheap, gotta have it. Ramen. Now, I have known people to not like ramen, but what I usually do is I don't actually put the seasoning packet in with the ramen. I like dry ramen. If you're on the fence about ramen and you're just not having it, try it dry and don't put the seasoning packet in it. In fact, put like a little egg over it, put like some soy sauce, maybe some teriyaki sauce, and really kind of spice it up a little bit like that. And I guarantee you might be a fan of ramen. It's pretty good. These are the ready mixes, like gravies, you know, the white gravies and the brown gravies and things like that, to just add water mixes, like the powders and the sauces and things like that. I like these because they are very cheap and they're super easy to make. Like if you want to make biscuits and gravy, you know, you have the meat, you have whatever, but you didn't get the milk. Milk is actually going up a lot in price lately. But if you didn't get the milk, you know, you could go ahead and get these ready-made mixes and just put some water in with it and then use that with your biscuits and gravy or whatever it might take gravy. But there's lots of different types of sauces. There's like lentils. I love lentils. I'm actually getting really, I'm only recently starting to get into lentils, but they're pretty affordable and they take way less time to cook than beans. They take 30 minutes to cook and they are ready to go. And you can make lentils into so many things, you know, into like meatloaf or whatever. Lentils are great and they're cheap and affordable and super easy to cook. Way easier to cook than beans. But yeah, lentils are definitely a great option. Lentils actually don't last as long in Mylar bags, just an FYI, but lentils are definitely a great option. Beans, any type of dried beans, like black beans, pinto beans, that kind of thing. Split peas won't last as long as some other beans, but anyway, most beans, super cheap. You can get them in bulk, you can get them in the small packages at a time, whatever you can afford. Super cheap, great to have if you like beans. I have to say that because if you don't like beans, obviously you're not going to be storing them. Don't store things you don't eat. Peanut butter. Peanut butter is still fairly cheap and it offers a lot of protein. So, you know, if you like peanut butter, whether the creamy or the crunchy, okay, I'm side creamy, but that's neither here nor there. So 7 grams of protein per serving, and a serving is 2 tablespoons. 7 grams of protein and 2 tablespoons. That's like as much as I put in on a sandwich. So that's pretty good. Yeah, definitely a good staple to have, and peanut butter can last quite a long time. Lard. So lard is definitely cheaper than butter and it lasts a lot longer. Any type of lard that you can get, even the Crisco, you know, fake lard, I get because they last a really long time. I actually did an experiment of Crisco unopened and I left it unopened for 5 years. I opened it and it was beautiful. It was spectacular. Like I had just bought it yesterday. Looked great, tasted great. It was wonderful. So Crisco, lard, those types of alternatives are really good. Like this says Best Buy July 12th, 2023, and I bought this last year of 2021. So it does have a pretty good shelf life and you can use it for a lot of stuff. Yeast. Like I said, if you're going to be making a lot of stuff from scratch, like especially from all that bulk flour that you're getting, right, and the sugar and stuff like that, get some yeast. There's a lot of breads and things that don't take yeast, but there's a lot of breads and things that do take yeast. You know, like pizza dough takes yeast. I'm sure you can make, you know, the sourdough pizza or whatever, but I'm just saying yeast is cheap. Throw it in your freezer and it lasts like, oh, super long time in your freezer. You literally just take it out and use it as is. You don't have to like, you know, defrost it or whatever. But yeah, yeast. I have a ton in my freezer. Get a bunch in your freezer. Super cheap. The packet, the bulk, whatever you can get. Instant potatoes. So I actually don't have any instant potatoes right now, but go ahead and imagine instant potatoes here, especially the off-brand with like that are in the packets. Fantastic, super cheap, super affordable. You could have mashed potatoes with like any meal. Popcorn. We love popcorn around here, okay? We eat so much popcorn and people might be surprised how much fiber is actually in popcorn. Let me see. So in this one, there's actually 6 grams of fiber in 2 tablespoons of unpopped popcorn. And then there's 4 grams of protein in a serving size of the 2 tablespoons. So popcorn is super cheap. Great snack, great option for, you know, just snacking on. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie here, but sometimes I've had it just as a dinner. Don't judge me. Popcorn is delicious, okay? Popcorn is life as far as I'm concerned. Right next to bread. Okay, so anyway, There you go. Learn to cook with these things, learn to use these items and make a whole bunch of stuff with them. These are the cheapest things, and sometimes you really need to look around for the best deal for this stuff. The dollar store may not be the best place to buy like a canned food, because you're spending $1 at the dollar store, but you could spend 50 cents or 70 cents at your local store for the off-brand. So really pay attention to those prices and make sure that you're getting the best deal, because we are talking about the cheapest after all. Look at those off-brands and look at the frozen section to fill up your freezers and then dehydrate, or preserve in other ways, or to use in your soups and stews, or however else you want to do it. You can make jams from the fruits, things like that. I would love to hear what other cheap foods you recommend. This is only, I'm sure, scratching the surface. I'm sure there's plenty more. Lots of food has gone up in price. Like one that I saw on a list somewhere was powdered milk. Well, powdered milk really isn't that cheap anymore. It used to be, but powdered milk is not so cheap anymore. Eggs are rising in price. Milk are rising in price. Of course, if you can get these things, preserve them, dehydrate them, freeze dry them, whatever you can do, that's definitely going to be helpful in the long run, but it depends all on your budget and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna stop talking now. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. Conquer tomorrow by preparing today. I'll talk to you later. Bye.